Alright, hey guys, it's Sean from rantsports.com, and today I'm going to introduce to you the idea of permutation drafting. Now, what permutation drafting is, it's a technique that looks at every single possibility that you can take in your fantasy football draft. So, some analysts will tell you that you have to take your first two running backs in the first two rounds, and then a wide receiver, tight end, whatever the pattern they think that you should take based on the most valuable picks. It takes that into account as well as the other thousands of different draft possibilities that you can possibly have. It even looks at taking a tight end or defense in the first round. Whatever the case, it looks at that. It's not going to happen. You're not going to take the defense in the first round because what it does is, unlike value-based drafting, which looks at just how valuable a player is compared to the average player or the replacement player rather, it looks at who's available in what round. So it looks at different websites to look at who's taken in what exact position. So it looks at who's available in the first round, second round, third round, etc. All you have to do is you just go to update, or you go to data, you go to refresh all, and it updates all of the different draft sites. So you have the most recent player average draft positions that you can possibly have, so your draft tool can look at the most optimal draft positions that you can do. So what it does is it looks at your possible or your projected roster. It looks at who's taken in the first, second, third round, etc. It just keeps going, looks at who's available and cross-references that. So it automatically updates who's available and who's not available based on who's been drafted already. So I'm going to take you to a mock draft and show you around exactly what it does. I'll start in a few minutes and I'll just show you a little bit around the tool right now. So I was in ESPN last time, but now we're going to be drafting in Yahoo. So that's going to change the average draft position. So we're going to change it to Yahoo, and that automatically changed who's available in what rounds and who I should be taking, and rather what position I should be taking in that round. Yahoo doesn't have a flex option either, so we're going to change it to 15 rounds because they only have seven bench positions and there's no flex. So we're going to change the flex option to none, and that will automatically change who's available to me. Rather than looking at the tight ends and running backs, it's going to give me 3 wide receivers for my starting roster. And you can also change how many teams are in your league and what position you're at. So in this Yahoo mock draft, there are 10 teams. So I will change it to 10, and it will automatically change who's available for me at any given round. I am also at the 7th spot, so we're going to change that from 3 to 7, and that will change automatically. So you just saw that I was projected to have Calvin Johnson, but now it says I should have Marshawn Lynch as my pick. Now, going back to looking at the rounds, what most people don't consider is that the round isn't just 1 through 10 or 1 through 12, whatever your league size is. The round is technically 1 through 8 in this case, because this player, if someone's supposed to be taken the 13th, they're not going to be available for me, or they're projected not to be available for me at this time. So the first round is technically anyone that's on average drafted in these rounds. But my system also looks at people that are available in the next half of the next round. So it looks at players that are available from here to here, because it knows that I probably won't be able to get this player here because someone might reach for him over here. So in the next round, it just keeps continuing. It looks who's available in each round, continuing into the next round. So draft is about to start, and all you have to do is when the player is drafted, you just type in their name, and then it automatically updates who's available and who's not available. Now over here you'll see that we have the best available section. This shows you exactly who's available, or compares who you're going to be taking to the next person. So Marshawn Lynch is a 11-point difference between him and Adrian Peterson, and then Adrian Peterson is a tie with Matt Forte. And it shows you that with all the available positions, and even if you add a flex option in, it will automatically show you who the best flex option is as well. But Yahoo doesn't have a flex option, so we're not going to be using that. So the draft has just started, and someone just took LaShawn McCoy as their first pick. Now, looking over to the right, it automatically takes LaShawn McCoy from here and places him over here in the last 10 pick section. So Jamal Charles has just been taken, and now he has been added to the last 10 picks, and he's been taken away from the next 15. Now, what it does is it actually goes to this sheet and looks at who's available at any given time rather than just the next 15 picks. It looks at all of them. So that's how the data gets pulled. It automatically looks at who's been taken and who hasn't been taken, who you should take. Now, one of my mock drafts just finished, and that's what just popped up. But there's one more pick before me, and it says that they're probably going to take Marshawn Lynch. Hopefully they don't. Otherwise, I'm going to. The best running back for me would be Matt Forte. So someone else just thinks that Matt Forte is the best pick for them. They took him, and now I have the availability to take Marshawn Lynch. Now, Marshawn Lynch, I project to be the top running back in this league, or in fantasy football this year. So, you might be curious exactly what the advantage is of doing permutation drafting if all it does is it scientifically breaks it down to have the optimal lineup. Well, it uses my own personal projections. I've projected numbers for every single player available except for the bench players that you may think will have some value, but I don't think they're anything at the moment. So all of these projections are my own, and it just scientifically breaks down my projections. They're not a computer projected system. They are entirely yours. And if you so choose to purchase this at $10, I'll provide a link for you. You can do the same thing. You can change the player's projected points, and it will automatically give you the best lineup you can possibly have. So I'm trying to type in the players here as I just missed them, and it says Drew Brees is the best player for me to take. I will take Drew Brees, type him in, and it automatically changes who the best player is for me to take. AJ Green is the best player, but in all likelihood he's going to be the next player taken. So while the next round is happening, I have 13 picks left until my next pick. So over here we have the weekly projections versus the average projection. So you can see over here we have a little dip in our points. This is when Drew Brees has his bye week. This is where Marshawn Lynch has his bye week. As the draft continues, it will look at your starting roster. It will look at, you can go over to the standings and you can see all the starting rosters that have been picked so far. So right now you can see Demaryius Thomas and Peyton Manning have been picked by team number 10. And then team number 8, me, having Jimmy Graham and Dez Bryant. Sorry, that was not me. Number 7, Marshawn Lynch and Drew Brees. So it looks at who has a bye week and who doesn't have a bye week. And then it'll automatically change who's been taken and who hasn't been taken and who has a bye week, and will fill them in as your starter every single week. That is where your running points total comes from. That's where the top teams is projected from. So I was right. AJ Green was taken, and now Le'Veon Bell has been taken. So I just typed in his name wrong, and that will show you you need to type in the player's name correctly, otherwise it will give you an error and that player will not be updated. So you need to be careful to type in the player's name correct, but that's really one of the only down factors to this system. You have to type in a player's name exactly how it comes up in the average draft position, because otherwise it won't recognize it. So as I just typed in Giovanni Bernard, you can't type in Gio Bernard because all the sites use him as Giovanni Bernard. So it recognizes him as that. So as you can see here, the draft is continuing smoothly, and you can look at how many people have been reached for and how many trends are starting to pick up. No one's been reaching for a lot of players yet. That will start coming in handy if you think that you need to take a defense before the system tells you to. and there's a streak of defenses being reached for, maybe you should think about overriding the system and taking a defense before it tells you to. Now, that's not going to happen for a few rounds, but this is a nice little graph that tells you who's been reached for and who hasn't been reached for. So you can refer over to here, how many people have been reached, who's reached for a player, and who hasn't. Now, I just heard that it's my pick. I'm going to type in the players quick. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Antonio Brown, Alfred Morris. So now Vincent Jackson is the best player for me to take, and I take Vincent Jackson. So as you can see, it automatically updated my weekly projections versus my weekly average. Now they all have different bye weeks, so then there's a few little dips. There's a 7th round dip, or 7th week dip, 6th week dip, and a 4th week dip. So it just keeps changing, and you can see exactly how good your team's going to do against the rest of the league each week. So right now it says that I have a projected record of 13-3, which is roughly a 76% win percentage. Now that comes from using Bill James' Pythagorean theorem or expectation. It looks at the average team that you can play versus your average week, and it tells you exactly who you're supposed to beat and who you won't beat based on weekly projections. So when you're done at the end of the mock draft or your real draft, you'll be able to see how good your team is compared to the rest of the league. Now, right now I have the power rank of number 1, and team number 10 is closing the gap a little bit, but not too much. He has Aaron Rodgers, of course, so he has a good quarterback as well, but as the draft continues, the permutations will only come into play even more. You'll make less mistakes when the rest of your league will make more mistakes. You're going to have a higher margin or a less margin of error than your other league mates will have. So Reggie Bush is my next pick, and I type him in. As you can see, I automatically went up. I have a very high win percentage now, or just went up a little bit, but my points total between number 7 and 10, I am in quite a big of a lead here. So I will return with this draft and show you the end of the draft so you don't have to sit through all of it, and show you exactly the final product from using permutation drafting. I'm back for a quick moment just to show you a quick example of something. Okay, in the best available section it says that Eric Decker is the best available wide receiver. It's highlighted in blue because wide receiver is supposed to be my next pick in the 5th round. But you're not supposed to take Eric Decker. You're supposed to take Torrey Smith. These are the two that you should be looking at. The 2 players listed in blue here, these are the guys that you should take. Eric Decker is just the best available wide receiver, but you should not take him because he's supposed to be taken in the 8th round. So just wanted to show you that so that you don't get confused at this section over here. It just shows you what position you should take over here. So I'll return later and I'll show you the end of my draft. Okay, hey guys, I'm back, and at the tail end of the draft, and you can tell that it automatically recognizes that Maurice Jones-Drew has been passed up. He's supposed to go at 87, but I can take him way late in the draft at the 14th round. So I am big on Maurice Jones-Drew this year, and now he was one of the biggest steals of the draft. I got him 47 picks cheaper than his average draft position. So that's a pretty good steal. It automatically recognized that I can still get him even though he's supposed to be taken later, and I got all the players that I needed to take before, and now I was able to take him. So finishing up over here, almost finished, and you can see that it's turning out pretty nice. I almost have 100 points more projected than the next team, Team 10, and I have still an expected record of 13-3. Now, it's probably the losses that I'm probably supposed to take come from my dips. My 4th week dip, my 9th, and my 11th. I mean, they aren't very big dips, but those are my lowest projected totals. So using the Pythagorean expectation, that's where that comes into play. It says that I should lose a little bit, but not very likely. I could win every single game because I'm projected to be better than on average than everyone, but there's still the possibility that they can be better than me. But this gives you the best basis for your team. So finishing up over here, I should clarify, just because you have the best team does not mean you're going to win in fantasy football. And if you're anything familiar with fantasy football, you know that there's too much that goes on. There's way too many variables that you can't account for. It's just way too hard. And so you can be beat by waiver wire, you can be beat by trades. There's so many different things that can happen that it's hard to recognize. But this gives you the best chance at winning from the get-go. This is the ultimate way to draft your team. And as I mentioned earlier, you can catch this for $10 on payloads.com, but before August 1st, I will give you 50% off if you use this discount code that I will put in the description for y'all. So, they're wrapping up. And we are almost set, and I will show you the final product. And as you can tell, Jeremy Hill came up as an error. That's because I don't have him projected for anything at the moment, but I will get that fixed up. And it says that I should take Steven Hauschka, but I'm just going to take Blair Walsh just for time's sake. Not that much of a difference. I will still have the best team. As you can see, it doesn't really matter who I take as my second kicker. I still get Dan Bailey and Blair Walsh. You can override the system a little bit just because, but as you can see, I just typed in Buffalo as the defense, but you have to type in the team name as the player selected. So it recognizes that the Bills have been taken. I meant to put Dan Carpenter. And the draft has been finished. And the last pick was Garrett Graham. Alright, so there you have it. There is my fantasy football tool. Now that the draft is done, you can do some analysis. You can look at exactly who's been left. So there's still some pretty good players left. D'Angelo Williams, Christine Michael, Bernard Pierce. Some pretty decent rookies left available. Noshawn Marino has some potential in Miami, but don't know exactly how he's going to do there. Kyrie Robinson is on the rise. So you can take a look at all the free agents that are available, and it's also just fun to take a look at how good your teams are compared to other teams. So I'm team number 7 over here, and just to show you, you can change the team names over here. You can change it to who dat. So that automatically changes that. The best team in the league is who dat. And I'm above the second team with 1,600 points, and I have 1,681 points. And you can take a look at all the rosters over here. Take a look at all the complete rosters, who's been selected by which team. You can see your weekly projected values and your win percentage, your rank, your points rank, all of that, and look at the average versus your own. But you can just take a look over here at your weekly projections versus the average, and you're good to go. And like I said, this is fully customizable. You can change it to whatever point type you want. If you have 6 points per passing touchdown, you can change that, and that automatically changes the quarterbacks. And as you can see, it changed my point total to over 1,700, and team number 10 just under 1,700. So you can keep changing that. If your yards per point is different, if your rushing touchdowns are different than your receiving touchdowns, you can change that too. Same goes for your kicking and your defense. So there's that. It's a very good system that you should really think about utilizing. If nothing else, just try it on a few mock drafts. I'm positive that you will have a very good team. And if everyone were to use this, all it would matter is who had the best projections. It takes out all of the thinking about who you should take at what time. It just relies on exactly what your football knowledge is or what your expectations of certain players are. So if you think that Tom Brady's going to beat that record again and he's going to get 56 touchdowns, whoever has Tom Brady is going to be a stellar team. But in our case, I don't think he's going to break the record. He's only going to have a little bit over 30 touchdowns, but there you have it. So you can change the system to your needs and to your expectations of players to have your customized best team that you can possibly have. So I'll provide a link for y'all to get going on this so you can test this out yourself. And like I said, by August 1st, you can have 50% off of this, making it only $5. Alright, so best of luck with all your fantasy football teams this season, and hopefully see you in the championship.